welcome to the land of Misr. Ahlan wa sahlan, as they say in Egypt, a country that has mesmerized travelers, historians, tourists, all alike. So in the next half hour, I'm going to get you some of the best known places in this country. In the show, what to watch out for in Cairo, cruising over the deep blue Nile, and Alexander the Great's capital, Alexandria. The first stop for any tourist would be the city of Giza, just 10 kilometers from the capital Cairo. And here stand the most famous, the most mysterious structure known to man, the pyramid. A set of 3 pyramids, the tallest built by King Cheops, known as the Great Pyramid. Well, I guess when you finally do see the Great Pyramid, there's nothing left to say. You're really left speechless because there are all these facts running in your head. I mean, it was built 3,000 years ago. It's been made of 2.5 million blocks of solid stone. It's just been lying there as a pile for centuries. It's the easiest thing to sketch when you're a child, but to know how they were built remains unfathomable even today. A few steps up the pyramid is a point that seems like a summit from where you can see the entire city of Cairo. It would take you around 3 hours to see the pyramids up close and also get the panoramic view. And it's best to start early in the morning. And just nearby is, of course, the Great Sphinx, the legendary statue of a lion's body with a human head. When it was first made, it had bright colors for the face, the headdress and the body. But years later, its body had got buried in sand. It is believed that Thutmose IV slept underneath the Sphinx, and the Great Sphinx came to his dreams and promised him that if all the sand was cleared away from under his body, Thutmose IV would one day be a great king, and that's exactly what happened, the promise of the Great Sphinx. Well, if you've been left spellbound by the Great Pyramids at Giza, picture this. This one is 2,000 years older than the Great Pyramids, and it's the oldest standing structure ever made by man, the Step Pyramid. It's an hour away from Giza. Seeing the Step Pyramid here gives you an idea of how the ancient Egyptians finally arrived at the perfect structure of the Great Pyramids after several trial and errors. That afternoon, I was back in Giza for a tea break at my tour guide's place. And from his place, he can see the pyramids every single morning.
When I open my window in the morning and I just look at the pyramids, it's really the same feeling. It's still powerful.
You never get bored, never get fed up.
Never.
If the pyramids look majestic in the day, wait till you see them in the night in the sound and light show. The Great Sphinx narrates the story of the pyramids and also tells you about other famous pharaohs of ancient Egypt like King Tutankhamun. Well, the Sound and Light Show is one good reason that you must stay back at Cairo after sunset. And if you're smart enough like me, don't go there and buy the tickets. Instead, watch it at somebody's rooftop. After that, I made a quick stopover at Khan-e Khalili, one of the oldest oriental markets in the world. Established in 1382, it still has ancient doorways from that time with a distinct Islamic architecture. It's best to visit this place in the night because that's when it comes alive. But you must use your bargaining skills to your absolute best. And if that doesn't work, well, try flaunting your connection with Amitabh Bachchan, and that is bound to work. Because Amitabh Bachchan, my big brother, he gives me this for 5 minutes. Other than Big B, the Egyptians are big fans of King Tutankhamun. So you will find King Tut's fridge magnets, King Tut in black stone, in t-shirts, anything possible. And simply do not forget to smoke the hookah at the cafe. Try it once even if you're not a smoker. Well, when I was heady enough after my first smoke, I decided to cure myself with some good dinner. My first sight of the great deep blue Nile was at night. The floating restaurants here in Cairo are pretty popular, not because of the platter of food, but because of the platter of dances on offer. First, the Tanora dance, an Egyptian folk dance that is inspired from the Sufi whirling dervish. And then the showstopper, the belly dance. In Arabic, this dance is called Raqs Sharqi, and it is known to have originated, yes, where else but in Egypt, and was around even when Napoleon invaded this land.
Well, a day that starts with looking at structures built by the ancient Egyptians and ending with a dance form that probably happened during the Pharaoh's time. If you think that Cairo is all that Egypt has to offer, well, there's much more to Egypt than just Cairo.
Still on the show, the temple of the most powerful pharaoh Ramses II and the much recommended cruise over the Blue Nile.
Hello there. Remember when I said that there is much more to Egypt than just the Great Pyramids? This is what I meant.
The temple at Abu Simbel, built by Ramses II. The 4 gigantic sitting statues of his with the poor mortal captives under his feet.
Now, if the grand size of the temple wasn't big enough to scare the enemies away, there are also signs of how captives were treated under the all-powerful Ramses II.
And just as the divine pharaohs, you can also do your bit by gifting the key of life to the gatekeeper. In the 1960s, this symbol of power could have been drowned by the construction of the Aswan Dam. But that's when UNICEF came as the savior.
The Abu Simbel temple is not just an incredible example from the old world, but also from the modern world when, in the 1960s, UNESCO relocated the entire temple block by block.
Close to this temple is another, also built by Ramses II, but dedicated to his beloved wife Nefertari. It's not as huge and certainly more delicate looking.
Ramses II is one of the first pharaohs who had enough respect for his wife to build an entire temple for her. But interestingly, the poor lady has just 2 statues out of the total 6.
A trip to Egypt is one big lesson in history, and that's one thing that you should be prepared for.
Well, we're now approaching the Philae temple, and the significance of this temple is that it's the last temple built in the Greek-Roman period for the ancient Egyptian religion.
The temple is located on an island, and just as Abu Simbel, relocated after the Aswan Dam was built.
This temple was started by Ptolemy II and finally finished by Ptolemy XII. What you see here on the main pylon wall are depictions of how the king treated his captives and also made offerings to the divine.
And you can also see what the sanctum sanctorum of these temples look like as opposed to our temples in India. The walls here are full of scenes on offerings made to the gods and heavily explained by the hieroglyphics all over.
Alright, now here's my first serious lesson in Egypt history. What we have here is Ptolemy II making an offering of incense to goddess Isis and her husband Osiris, and all of this scene can be explained here through hieroglyphics, and Ptolemy II's name is written here within the cartouche.
The next day when the cruise kicked off, I was surrounded by the waters of the deep blue Nile. It takes the Nile cruise 3 days to get you to the city of Luxor, but the cool breeze is the best therapy that you can ask for.
What else could be better than waking up to the Nile? I read a lot about the mystic powers of the Nile, but it's only when you finally cruise on it do you believe in them.
Well, I guess you too will feel the same after you experience the Nile cruise. But there's a lot more action than just sailing. You get to party hard the Egyptian way.
I'm wearing a traditional traditional Galabaya dress and it's an Egyptian dress, and I'm heading for the Galabaya party.
And you can buy the Galabaya either from a shop inside the cruise or the local market before you start sailing.
I'm in the west bank of Luxor, and right now I'm in the Valley of Kings, but I'm headed for a queen's temple, a queen who reigned ancient Egypt for 20 years, Queen Hatshepsut.
Queen Hatshepsut made sure she left her mark on the history of ancient Egypt. On ground level, this birthing chamber has a story to tell.
Now, since Queen Hatshepsut was a lady, but just like other kings, she also had to justify her divine birth. So there you have it, she's suckling milk from goddess Hathor.
And on level 1, you will be greeted by the few statues of Queen Hatshepsut left standing.
There is plenty more on ancient Egypt history that the city of Luxor offers, but what we're going to get to you up in a while is the Karnak temple.
And that's the biggest temple complex in the world. And there's also the city of Alexandria.